We're live. All right, everyone. All right, so we're on with West and Fred. We're chatting about fire. Well, kick us off, Dave. Do the announcement thingy.
Welcome to the Tooele Happy Hour, starring Jared Anderson and David Weiss. Today's guests, Defense Sense LLC. They're going to show us or tell us about the value of defensive firearms training. Gentlemen, please introduce yourself.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Weston Brandon. I grew up in Tooele County, lived in Tooele and Rush Valley before moving up to Saratoga Springs. My family graduated from Westlake High School. Wife and I just bought a house, finally moved back into Tooele earlier this year. Been teaching classes with Fred and some other folks for 2.5 years. How long has it been?
Yeah, it's been like 28 months.
A little over 2 years now. And so I'm glad to be back out here because we teach them out here. We teach them in Grantsville, so I'm a lot closer to where we teach our classes. And yeah, I do refrigeration for a living. I fix ice cream machines. That's my day job.
Yeah.
And other restaurant equipment. I work for Taylor.
How about McDonald's?
Yep, that always comes up.
You
I was
fix
just at McDonald's earlier today in Lake Point.
So now,
Valuable man.
now, does McDonald's hire you to break them?
No.
Just wonder.
It's so rare that their machine's actually broken.
Well, what is it usually that they just have a sign up that says they don't like making ice cream?
Well, okay, there is some truth to that, but usually when I show up, it's called freezer locked. The screen says freezer locked, and it'll do that if the temperature of the ice cream up in the top, they call it the hopper, where it's waiting to get pumped into the ice cream barrel. If that temperature gets above 41 or 45 degrees for however long, then it freezer locks it and makes them clean it because they don't want bacteria or anything in their ice cream.
Oh,
So then, teenage kids that can't see up there, they go put ice cream in it and then they think they put the lid on and it's like halfway falling off. And it's like leaving the door on your fridge open.
so it just constantly cools.
It just-
and then
Yeah. And then it'll pump it into the ice cream barrel as you're drawing it out, and then it freezes what's in there. And so, I mean, there's a number of user error things that they do to freezer lock the thing. And I usually just show up, clean it, start it back up, and it's fine.
so it's just a safety device.
Yeah. It's a safety thing.
And do you deal with ice makers?
No, Taylor did make a few years ago, but that was before I worked with them. So I don't work on ice machines.
Okay, that was my big question. Kind of I ended up like
I do like me some McDonald's ice cream.
I would like to
The
say
price is right.
I would like to say I've tried it in the last 5 years, but I haven't. I'm not kidding.
I used to eat that stuff at the airport all the time when I worked there.
Yeah,
COVID's been good to me, so I
You know
needed it.
who has some good ice cream? My favorite flavored ice cream that runs is Dairy Queen, and then American Burgers is pretty good with their ice cream too. I fix their ice cream machine. Like literally anybody that does any kind of soft serve anything, it's going to be a Taylor machine, at least here in Utah.
okay, all right. Well, I like that Mexican ice cream joint over there on Vine. It's right next to Vista Linda. They've got some good stuff in there.
I don't think they use a Taylor machine, so I haven't been there to work.
Oh, they
It's hard
shovel it
ice
out of buckets.
Oh well, then yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so let's get on to this. So I've been preaching on here for a while that everyone should, well, not just seek the knowledge and own a firearm, but, or not just own a firearm and learn self-defense, but seek out the knowledge. And a couple months ago, I went to a class that you guys were both instructors at. It was a 2-day. Well, go ahead and take it away. Tell everyone about the class I went to. It was a John Farnham 2-day basic concealed carry class.
First of all, about 2 years ago, both West and I attended John Farnham's 2-day handgun class. Mm-hmm. He taught that here in Tooele County. And of course, Mallory, she's been taking classes from him for 13, maybe 14 years. Mm-hmm. And so she has been teaching us how to teach his curriculum with his permission. And it's not just skills with your hands. It's not just repetitive. It's the principles behind why would I use a gun to defend myself or my loved ones. and in which situations you would, and how do you avoid getting into that situation, and some of the responsibility and the decisions that you make when you're using a firearm to defend yourself. I mean, you're putting a piece of lead into somebody's body, and then there's also the piece where a lot of beginning shooters have never really thought about, am I capable of shooting someone? So we help them cross that bridge for a couple of days, and we discuss that a lot. A lot of mothers will say, yeah, I could shoot somebody to defend my kids, but I don't know if I could for myself. And Mallory will always look at them and say, do your kids need you?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that can take care of your kids better than you?
Let's take a minute and talk about Mallory. She's what, 3'8" and Spitfire.
She's a small girl, I'll tell you what, but she's a warrior.
She's a Spitfire. She is.
Yeah.
She's on it. She's very quick, very smart. She's an impressive lady in everything she does. Now that's one thing I want to mention. When you take this class, the initiation of every call it recital of the maneuver kicks off with a maneuver to do just kind of a mass de-escalation. You know, get people away from you, and then it accelerates if it does.
Right.
But it kicks off. That's the beginning of the class is what to say to get people away from you that pose that possible threat to force you to defend yourself.
Right.
Exactly.
They call those the tape loops.
Yeah, the
And
tape loop.
We call them tape loops because we want them to play in your head like they're on a tape loop. You know, you need to practice them like they're on a tape loop while you're driving anytime. Just say them hundreds and hundreds of times.
And they're probably the most important part,
Oh, absolutely.
Without a doubt.
you know, especially, you know, if it ever does happen, if you follow that tape loop, you're going to stand a better chance of not losing in court.
Well, they say the best way to win a fight is to not be there in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. Or to
Yeah.
not even have it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be there. Exactly.
That's right.
And there's one thing that John Farnham always teaches. He says, you know, follow these basic rules. Don't hang around stupid people. Don't go to stupid places, and don't do stupid things. And he always chuckles and he says, and be to bed by 10 o'clock because he knows none of
And
us are gonna
preferably your
follow
own
that.
bed.
Yeah, preferably your own bed. But if you think about any trouble that anybody's ever been in, anyone that listens to this, did you follow those 3 rules? You know, were you with stupid people doing stupid things in stupid places, and it's, you know, to the high 90 percentile? Yeah, you were.
Yep.
So we control the trouble we can get ourselves into.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I think we skipped Fred's introduction.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a little bit of your background before we go too much further.
Yeah. Tell us about you, Fred.
All right. Bought my first rifle at age 10 from my dad. Anyway, I grew up in Payson. And then, you know, after I got married, my wife and I have lived most of our life in North Utah County. We lived 4 years out of state in Oregon and Nebraska. But we came back, and I got hired by the sheriff's office here 4 years ago, and I'm a sergeant in the jail. Before that, I worked 2 years for BYU police, 15 years for the highway patrol. 3.5 years of that, I was on SWAT, which was just a kick in the pants. A lot of fun. Shot a lot of rounds. So I am a firearms enthusiast. And I got to tell you how I met West. We were at a basic handgun class 2 years ago, well, a little over 2 years ago, put on by Todd Nilsson Training and Consulting. It's an outfit out of Springville. They're called BPMF now, but they were just teaching us a very basic class. And I hadn't shot much in 13 years because I got out of law enforcement for 13 years. And, you know, I'd go out and shoot Coke cans, and I'd create my own little hostage rescue thing and just practice myself. But I hadn't attended a class. And so here I am in this basic class, and they just started us out drawing from the holster, shoot once, and then reholster, do it again. They did that about 7 times. And I was feeling pretty good. I was looking at my groupings, you know. I had pretty good groupings like this. And I noticed that the guy next to me was shooting faster than me. His round was coming off quite a bit faster than mine. But I didn't even look. You know, I was focused on my accurate shooting. When we were done, I looked up, and I had a pretty good group. And I looked over to the target next to me, and West had all his rounds inside of a $50. And I'm like, who the heck are you? And where did you learn to shoot like that? And that's how I met West.
Oh,
He's had my respect from that moment ever since. He's a highly skilled handgunner.
yes, he is. I can attest to that.
What kind of handgun do you use, Wes?
Well, I guess that depends on what day it is.
Handguns are like accessories.
Yeah.
What shoes am I wearing?
I actually just recently changed what I was carrying every day, but for a long time I carried Springfield XDM. That's what I was shooting at that class. Now I carry a Glock 48, a little bit smaller, but I switched to an appendix carry rig. And I mean, I'm changing how I'm doing stuff all the time.
How's that appendix carry driving that van all the time? Is it?
You know, at first it kind of sucked, but once you get it figured out, you kind of find the sweet spot for where you carry. And I'm a big guy. Okay, I got a little bit of happy gut going on, right? So that can be super uncomfortable if you don't have the right kind of holster. And I got what the company's called Pholster, PHLSTER, and it's the Enigma is what they call it, which is essentially just a chassis that you then bolt your holster to. And they do make holsters also, but if they don't have ones for your specific firearm, then there's other companies who make different holsters that will attach to their chassis system. That's what I did for my Glock 48
So it's an appendix frame, and then you
so if I were to stand up and take this off, I got like this sport band that's underneath my shirt that comes around, and then it clicks to this carbon fiber chassis system here. And I've got a hard Kydex holster bolted onto that. And then there's a little leg leash that wraps around your leg and clicks on so that when you're pulling your gun out, it doesn't, you don't lift your holster clear up to your ear trying to do it. And that's the basics of what they offer you. And then they have a Facebook group called the Pholster Concealment Workshop. I think Pholster Concealment Workshop. And so I went on there, and there's a whole bunch of bigger guys like me that carry appendix with no problem. And so I started searching like pelvic bone pain, because that's what the muzzle was digging into my pelvis when I sit down, and it hurt like hell.
And then it'd make you sit weird.
Yeah, and then it like pushes
your ass falls asleep.
So I looked up some of these problems and ways the guys had fixed them, and what I ended up doing to fix mine was I went to Walmart and got one of those gel foot inserts for your boot, just a cheap $5 one, and I cut the heel off of it, and I Velcroed it onto the inside of my holster, right where it pushes against my pelvis, so it's just a nice gel
So
cushion
just like a little flap, like right at the base of it.
Yeah, my muzzle's right here. My holster's kind of a square shape. It's got a light on there too, and I've just got that heel of that gel pad kind of glued on the back of that plastic, so that's what's pushing against my skin. It's comfortable as all get out. So,
is it more comfortable than open carry?
No, I don't think anything's as comfortable as open carry.
I mean, if I had my choice, I'd be carrying what law enforcement carry on their pistol belt, where it actually pushes the holster out from your body about half an inch.
Oh yeah,
and that's when it's the most comfortable, because you got that more freedom to sit down, and it's just always there and secure. But
oh yeah, I like open carry. I've got some nice open carry holsters, but I mean, for realistically going around town at work or going to the store, whatever, I'm not going to wear.
Last thing you want to do is cruise into McDonald's to fix the ice machine. With that.
People make the argument that open carry is a deterrent and stuff, which you can make that argument all day, and I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with that, but I'm like, if you don't need to tell everybody that you have a gun, why would you?
It's also a deterrent from that little old lady feeling comfortable talking to you too.
It is. I've open carried before. I mean, when I'm hunting, I open carry on a chest holster, but
sometimes when I'm on my way to the range, I'll open carry going into 7-Eleven or whatever. But I open carried for 17 years as a patrol officer.
Yeah.
And it is nice. It's easier. But people expect to see a police officer with a gun on them.
Yeah.
I do.
Matter of fact, undercover police officers conceal theirs.
Yes.
Even though that they still, even if you're a detective and they know you're a detective, they would still be put off if they were open carrying.
You want to keep your ace hidden until it's time to show your ace.
When they make nuclear deployment devices that I can fit under my shirt, that will be what I carry.
Exactly.
Anyway, so what do you carry, Fred?
Dirty rounds.
Well, are you guys interested in knowing which is the very best handgun?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. The very best handgun is the one that you practice a lot with,
Yeah.
become highly proficient with.
That is true.
my answer.
That is true.
And I'm
Even
telling
if
you,
it says high point, that is true.
well, I'll tell you what, we had a guy down in St. George at a class, showed up with a high point. We gave him so much crap about having that gun, and he outshot 90% of the people in that course with that gun.
I didn't think it was going to make it through a magazine, but
He did
passed
awesome
that.
with that
High-
high point.
High points are bricks.
They are. They're ugly. They're
But
it was
obnoxious.
so ugly.
They're damn reliable.
But
Now, when I say a brick, I mean the brick literally square, has like the ruddy exterior. They need to paint them red.
Yeah.
But,
so to answer your previous question, I'm a Glock guy.
yep.
And that comes from having been issued Glocks in law enforcement. The Highway Patrol gave us Glock 22s. When I was working with the detectives unit, I carried a Glock 23. It's a little smaller to conceal in a shoulder rig. My entire time on SWAT, we carried Glock 22Cs, compensated.
The Charlie models.
Yep, the Charlie model, and I have more miles on a Glock 22 than any other. Well, here at the sheriff's office, our issued weapon is a 9mm Glock 17, and which there's nothing wrong with that gun, especially with modern. I used to kind of badmouth 9mm, but with modern ammo,
Oh, yeah.
you're good to go. It's
Oh, yeah.
it's just fine.
Well,
That's all
not
I
just
know.
that.
That's all I know is 9mm because that's
Yeah.
all they gave us in the military.
Anytime, any store you walk into, you can walk out with a box of 9mm.
So having that said, I bought another Glock 22 2 weeks ago.
Did you?
And so I'm back in the Glock 22.
Now, the
world.
Glock 22
And you see the smile on my face. I love it's a 40 caliber.
It's a
With
40,
The ballistics
yeah.
of that is very close to that of a 357 Magnum.
Yeah,
Very close. It's
yeah.
a very powerful round,
Yeah.
and I love it.
Snaps hard.
It does. It takes a little more practice to control it, but it can be done. My wife carries a Glock 23, and that's a 40 caliber Glock, and she has no problem. She has no. I'll bet you I could give her a 9mm or a 40, and she really wouldn't know the difference. She's too focused on sight picture.
So she's
supposed to be doing.
She's gotten past that.
Yeah.
She's gotten to where the expectation of surprise.
Yes.
Okay, so she's gotten past the rest.
Exactly.
Oh,
We've
40s.
done that to more than one student in class before too. Switch them. They got this little dinky 9mm Ruger LCP, little crappy pistol. I think is what that stands for.
Another
So-
one is the M&P Shield. It beats up on you. If you
Yeah.
run
Yep.
that for 200 rounds, you're gonna know it.
Yep.
Then
They're
we
so
hand them a
light
full
that-
size 22 40 cal, and they're like, "Oh, this is way better." So, I mean, snappiness of your recoil is a lot dependent on the actual gun compared to the caliber.
Yeah, the heavier the pistol, the less the recoil gets transferred into your wrist.
I mean,
and
if I
elbow.
shoot a 25-pound 22 cal, I'm not going to feel a damn thing.
Yeah. But you carry a high point weighing in at what, 8 pounds
I don't even
dry?
know.
See, and I say I'm a Glock guy, but I also watch these guys with their guns. They perform at such a high level, and that takes me back to my opinion that the gun that's best is the one that you put the time in with and become highly proficient with.
And I always tell people, look, the bad guys aren't going to be wearing body armor and Kevlar helmets.
Hopefully not.
Usually.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're going to get shot with a 22, a 9, or a 45 or whatever. You're going to feel it.
Yeah.
If you're one of those people running around without body armor.
I agree.
And if you're a small person and you feel that recoil, man, get comfortable with those lower calibers and just don't. I usually like my wife. She can't shoot. She can't go off on a 9mm. She has to use something lower.
380 or something like that.
Like a 22.
22.
Pea
20.
shooter, you know.
I'll give her a
something-
22 mag
something
at
like
least.
that. But I don't want to discourage her by giving her something powerful. And that's one thing, like when you're talking to the ladies and the smaller people, I always encourage them to go low.
Yeah. So send her to one of our classes. We'll help her graduate. A couple of classes ago, we had this young girl show up. I'm guessing she was 16 or 17 years old, and she had really long fingernails. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be tough. How am I going to?
Yeah, how do you curl that back?
And she was so motivated, she just figured it out. And she was shooting a Glock 48, 9mm smaller.
Either
Glock.
that or a 43A.
That's awesome. 43.
And she's just rocking it. She, at the end of 2 days, she was just getting it done like everybody else.
I think it was Mallory's 48 that she was shooting.
Okay, all right.
'Cause I can't remember her name, but she was the best friend of Mallory's niece. And that's
And
how
I
she
remember
got
looking
it.
at those nails when we started the day and thinking, I'm not sure how this is going to work. But you know
Like,
what?
you can't ask her to take them off. They're glued. They're super glued on there,
But she figured it out. She found that trigger well every time and just kept on going.
And she
So,
passed the, I
yeah,
believe she passed the test
She
too.
did.
Yeah.
She did.
She rocked
And
it.
I love, I'm always been a big fan of Glocks. Every time, I think Glocks, if you're going to be a first time shooter, would probably be the ideal first time shooter pistol. It's
I like them because they're simple. I started in law enforcement with a revolver.
Yeah.
We had to, the only thing wrong with the revolver is that serious malfunction after the 6th round, but we got really good at reloading with our speed loaders too. We were quick, but I'll tell you what, it was a beautiful day when they let me shoot my first Glock because it's just simple. It always goes bang. You can dip it in a barrel of tar and it goes bang. I mean, it just works. I like them.
yeah.
And you double or triple your capacity compared to that revolver.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's the cheapest ammo to use these days?
For target?
22.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but for
For real,
for handguns, probably.
Yeah, 9's cheaper.
Blazer-
so I can get
Blazer
9s down in Salt Lake for about 38 cents a round. I can get 40 caliber for about 42 cents a round.
38 cents a round for 9, huh?
There's a
ammo prices are dropping recently.
Yeah.
They are
They've
too.
been going
I
down.
get all my ammo from HSL ammo in St. George, which is, it's not factory new per se. They technically reload all the casings. All the bullets are new, obviously, because you're not going to go pick up bullets, but they manufacture those by the thousands and thousands down in St. George, and it's the highest quality ball ammo that I've shot. I've gone through. I started buying ammo from them a year ago, so I've probably gone through 6,000 rounds of HSL ammo. I haven't had a single misfire yet.
And if you're just punching holes in paper, go as cheap as you can, as long as they go bang. Because there are some, you can get some people to reload and about every 16th round doesn't go bang. That's not worth it.
Yeah, and stay away from the steel casing if you can.
Yes.
That's that damages most weapons. I mean, with your Kalashnikov,
That's all my Kalashnikov knows. is
Yeah.
steel.
your Kalashnikov is probably fine because the Russian says, "Oh, it needs this big," and they added to it. It was like building a '57 Chevy; they just added more tolerance. But try to stay away from steel because steel doesn't contract after it fires, and that's where the damage is done.
And they got that, it's like lacquered or something on the outside of that. When your gun gets hot, if you're shooting a lot and it gets hot, it gets really sticky and you start having some.
Well, yeah, that's what it does. The brass fires and it expands, but then it contracts real quick.
That's my shoulder fired weapon right there.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
Looks pretty bad.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about on the steel casing.
yeah, and that's one beautiful thing about a Kalashnikov is you can feed it some junk.
Yeah.
Where an AR, generally, you don't want to feed it any junk because that extractor clip is kind of too small for what you want.
If you know that ahead of time, you just have some extra extractor clips.
Well, yeah.
Whatever the hell you want.
You don't want to be in a battlefield situation.
No, I've shot steel through my
Press-
AR.
and I have too, but I try to avoid it.
ARs
Yeah.
don't do well with it. I shot, when ammo was $1.20 a round, I bought a bunch of steel case for my Glock and it did fine.
Well, it's a Glock.
But it's also dirty
Yep.
and messy and it's harder on the gun.
And you got to be
Yeah.
careful, as Russians are known to use corrosive primer. Too.
Yes, you better clean that gun after every time you shoot. Yep.
Yeah, it's not like if you buy a good, set of Hornady, you can take it home and it'd be all right for the next range day.
That's right.
You got to clean it that night, or you're going to get some spindling inside of there.
That's why I like these Russian guns. I mean, you could just abuse the heck out of them. I remember when the government was paying for my ammunition. I remember one time we'd have like our mags loaded here, and then we'd tape one upside down here, and then another one here, and we'd just go to town, and those things would go forever. Good times. when the government's paying for
You
it.
sure know a lot about guns for a guy that doesn't own any.
I know. I borrow guns.
He fishes a lot, and he loses them on his fishing expedition.
Every
Falling out of the
damn
boat.
time.
Yeah.
Every damn time.
I think the one you brought to class last time you lost on the way home.
I did, and it was borrowed too. I still owe that guy. Yeah, but that last class I went to, I was sporting a Glock 43, and I like it. It's a good pistol.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the first class I went to, I had the Canic Mete or whatever they call it. You know, I love that pistol. I love the way it
the
shoots.
trigger on the Canic is sweet.
It's about the finest trigger.
Yes.
Out of the box trigger that you could probably get.
And it's a full body pistol, so it really doesn't have.
And they
a lot
come
of
with
kick.
the add-ons for Red Dot.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with all the gear
Now
you need.
that however you say that,
Mete.
because I know Rooster runs a Canic TP9 SFX, and on the optics plate where he has it, the rear iron sight is on the optic plate. So if he wants to put the red dot, he loses rear iron. Is it the same on the?
No, this is the next gen of that where I still retain the co-witness
Oh, good.
when I
good.
put optics on. So the cut is just before it.
Okay, that's good.
And then
you just got to learn how to point shoot.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I did an 8-hour class once where when we showed up to the range, they taped our sights with black electrician's tape.
Yeah.
And we shot for 8 hours with no sights. It was point shooting. So you'd shoot at the round piece of steel and you'd see where you hit and then you would adjust. And by the end of the night, it was ping, 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 ping.
So
it
you're
was
just-
amazing how good we got at point shooting.
You're
Just
getting
because
that muscle memory.
Yeah.
And with the Glock now you wouldn't want to go from a Glock to say,
it changes everything.
because the Glock has a tiny sharper cant to that handle.
Yeah. You'd have to get used to that one gun. Now, one saying that we always say in our training, one drill we do is we do the battlefield pickup. Remember, everybody shot everybody else's gun at least 2 times. And the purpose of that is so that you learn how different guns run.
And also a lot of people there wanted to
buy a gun, so they wanted to
Yeah, that's a great point for anybody listening that is wanting to take a class. I don't find it any necessary that you have to buy a gun before you take a class. At least our class. I don't know how other people are, because we'll loan you a gun.
Yeah.
To use.
Well, Holly showed up and borrowed a gun for her shoot, and then I took her and Lauren out 2 weeks ago, and we just went to get some. Borrowed 6 of their guns, like I do. I'm good at borrowing, and they got to shoot them because they're both in the market for a new pistol.
Yeah.
And so we tried them on a 1911 platform and on a Glock platform and on a Springfield platform, Smith & Wesson platform, so that they could run through them and see them. And then they rated them at the end of every time. They each, in the end, had 2 different favorites. But, it gives them the opportunity.
That's awesome that you did that for them,
idea.
because that's what people need. They need a little experience so they can make their own decision.
Well, that's
Feel good about what they chose.
Well, that's what we should use the public library for. Is we should be able to rent and borrow artillery guns and things like that, and so we know.
yeah.
I want to sign out
But
the
we don't have to buy
155. I'm sorry, the 155's already out, but will you do with the 105? We have a 10-inch out back, but
Well, one of the sayings we say in our training is that whatever slides down the bar through the vomit and the glass and the beer
yep,
is the best gun in the world right now.
yeah, it
This
is.
is all I got. To
Yeah,
deal
what does
with, right?
Farnham say? Herfinder for 3,000 or something.
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, and so to be able to have a little bit of knowledge of all the guns, so that if ever you did have to just go with whatever you can get your hands on, you'd be able to be confident in operating it. So that's one of the reasons we do that battlefield pickup drill.
And a lot of the new shooters that do that drill, when they come to class, a lot of times the handgun that they either bought to bring to the class or that we loaned them is the first and only handgun that they've ever shot, or at least in a very, very long time.
Yeah,
And so then they get somewhat comfortable with that specific handgun because they've done probably a 12-hour day before that, and then a half a day the next day before we get to that drill. So they're like, okay, I think I can do this gun, but then they look at all these other guns that look similar, but they're all different, and they're like, well, freak, I don't know, you know. So then they get to pick them all up and like, oh, these all work the same. Mm-hmm. Essentially, one might have a manual safety on it or something.
Well, Browning kind of kicked off how all of them work. It's the takedown that changes.
Right. And then
Pretty much
Glock made
most
them
of
all
them.
striker fired. Now everybody just kind of makes their own version
Well,
of
yeah,
Glock.
yeah.
You know?
Just to throw a statistic or two out there, the state of Utah has issued somewhere between 70 and 80,000 concealed carry permits, and some of those are going to be to out-of-staters. But on the average, people who go out and buy a gun, 2 years later, 70% of those guns will still be in the box they purchased it, and the average is 5 to 7 rounds has been fired through that gun.
Yep.
So people will go buy a gun, makes them feel secure, but what they do with that gun does not provide security,
No, they
even close to it.
they put it in a drawer, they put it in a safe, they put it, and then they don't use it. They, you know, it sits and collects dust, and
And you think like that average is 5 to 7 rounds have been shot through any gun that's been bought. And it's probably because 95% of them are never shot. And then the few that are owned by guys like us get shot thousands of times.
oh yeah, we're
You know.
keeping the.
We're the ones that would even bring that
brings
up
that
to the
percentage
5 or
up.
7 rounds.
And I know mine's been dry fired more than it's been live fired.
That's a good thing. You can learn more about accuracy by dry firing than live firing.
You learn more about yourself.
Yes.
Absolutely. One of our instructors, Eric, who he runs his little things called Everyday Defenders, and he helps us teach, and he's a phenomenal gunfighter. And he had a friend from, I think he came from another country that he had met, and he was applying for a security position for the LDS church. I don't know if it was at the office building or something like that. And one of the requirements was that they would go through like a firearms skills test, essentially a qualification. And he asked Eric, he says, hey, I'm going to have to do this, but I never shot a gun. I never done at least a handgun. And so Eric told him to do a couple of things for dry practice, gave him a gun to use, and said, okay, for the next week, every night for 10 minutes, do this. And then the next week he's like, okay, now add this and do it for 10 minutes every night. And it was like a couple weeks later, he outshot every single applicant on that qualification. Just for dry practice.
Eric's he's a damn machine in his muscle memory on his draw and shoot.
Oh yeah, and that absolutely comes from dry practice.
He's a machine. And he's got all of us convinced that appendix carry is the future. I just still don't know if it'll work with the spare, you know, with the spare tire. I still don't know if it'll work.
Yeah.
Like mine, it'd have to be called more.
When we're done here, I'll show you how I've got mine.
Yeah.
Because we're similar body types.
Oh, yeah.
I finally figured out how that actually works on my body. So.
We'll have to take notes. But anyway, so we'll read through comments here in just a second. But talk about, you've got a class coming up this weekend.
Yes.
A 2-day
It's
class.
the 11th and 12th of
next
November.
weekend.
And it's down at the Grantsville Police Range.
Yep.
If anybody's curious and they aren't taking the class, they can come in and watch in for a while and see what we do to help decide whether they want to take a future class. More than
Now-
welcome.
What does a class cost for the audience?
$200 for the 2-day class.
Yes.
And that's about, I mean, it varies depending on the season because summers are longer days, but it probably averages 18 to 20 hours of instruction.
And you're going to want to bring
when we attended John Farnham's class, he charges $750.
Oh, I'm sure. He's the guy who invented the program.
And
And
it's worth it.
It's
He's good.
100% worth it.
And you want to bring about 300 rounds of ammo.
Probably use about 200, but I would hate to
bring
run out.
300. Well, actually, I used about 350.
Well,
I would say that also depends on how trigger
That's
happy
because
you
every
are.
time we said to shoot 4, you shot 7.
Well,
And, you know, I'm just saying.
I can't count.
No, I'm just kidding.
And
It was great.
and also, I like to shoot.
Yes.
So if someone wasn't getting up to the firing line to test, I jumped in.
And that's another point. If we have a smaller class, then we'll use, if we have a bigger class, we'll kind of split into 2 relays or 2 groups. So one group of 6 or 7 people are on the line, then the other group is behind them either watching or reloading their mags or getting a drink or whatever. So you'll shoot a little less rounds by the time the class is done if it's a bigger class versus a smaller class like the one we have coming up this next. So far, it's smaller. We have 7 students for that one. We'll probably run all 7 of them on the line. I don't know. We'll see how that goes once we
probably
get there.
will.
But
You'll probably be able to for most of it.
yeah,
You know?
for most, so they'll probably end up shooting a little bit more than our average class.
You go
They'll
into,
probably be like 300.
do you like do the instructions where like, all right, now go into the prone position, load 5
We haven't
rounds
taught
into
prone
your
shooting yet.
clip.
See,
Well, that just brings back memories I'm not so sure I want to have.
That's all I can think of when I go to the freaking
See,
range.
these aren't anything like the military ranges.
No,
nothing like that. Now they are semi-formal, but you're expected to be an adult there. They're not going to hold your hand through every step. You're expected to.
What John Farnham says is he says, this is not a Mother May I range. If you need to do something, find a berm, deal with your gun. Don't ask for permission. Just be an adult about it. Yeah.
Sort it out.
We've had military guys and currently serving law enforcement guys come through our class, and especially on the military side where your basic training goes through a lot of the stuff on M16 platform.
Yeah,
so
they just take.
those guys can break that thing down and
They
build
just
it back
take
up like
2
it's
weeks
Legos.
to learn what you guys would perform in 4 hours. Seriously, that's what they do.
But then, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't do hardly any training with sidearms.
He was Air Force.
My job was pretty specific. It's like we're on a flight crew, so all we got was a sidearm.
But we've had other guys from Army, Marines, I think we had a guy from the Navy once. Anyway, very few of them were ever
Sidearms
trained in any
is
sidearms.
field grade NCOs, officers, MPs, and some medics once in a while.
And I wasn't that great at. I only shot expert like once on my 9mm.
You know, here's the deal. Shoulder fired weapons are easy to shoot compared to handguns. Handguns are extremely difficult to shoot accurately. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of practice, a lot of understanding of what you're doing. You know, with today's optics, a shoulder fired weapon, put the thing on the thing and pull the thing. I mean, it's easy.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, if you're outside of Parkinson's,
Yeah.
you'll be all right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But so let's call out your website real quick. It's Defense Sense.
DefenseSenseUSA.com.
Okay. Go on there. Now, if anybody wants to get a hold of you guys to sign up for this class,
Yeah, the website has a contact form on it. So if you fill that out, then I'll get an email with everything that you said on there.
okay.
And I'm usually pretty quick within a couple of hours to respond to any email because, like I said, I fix ice cream machines. So if I'm elbows deep in a McDonald's machine, I'm not going to email you back right that minute. But the same day, I'll get back to you the same day.
And at least right now, you can sign up for Wes' class or Mallory's class on
Our website. Yeah. So whenever Mallory's class is
So
scheduled,
he
I have
facilitates
it on there
that for Mallory.
too. And then
Good.
everybody, it shows right now. We just do it through Venmo, and it has like the QR code and stuff. If you click on that register for a course, then it pulls you up to a Google form, and it asks like your name, your phone number, and all this kind of stuff. What class you want to take? Just the information that we need from you, and then it'll show you how to pay for the class down lower. And if it's for Mallory's class, you still Venmo that, but then I just take it. I just flip.
So
it
you
back
guys,
to Mallory.
you guys work together. You guys are both separate LLCs, but if
Yeah.
she's shooting a class, you're going to show up and be an assistant.
Right.
And if you're shooting one, she'll show up, be an assistant.
Right, and we like doing that for at least 2 reasons. One of them is that when either of us is leading a class, we get a lot less one-on-one time with a student because we're leading the whole group and keeping everything on track.
Yeah, Mallory wasn't able to give a lot of one-on-one time.
Right, and
where
both of us
you-
really like doing that.
Oh yeah.
That's where I get a lot of the enjoyment of being an
If I
instructor.
get a shooter, I've tried everything I can and they're still pulling their rounds, I'll get West over there and say, do your magic, buddy. And he's just really good at that. How to hold that weapon, what to think in your mind, and how to get that round to go right where you want it to go. He's better at that. I'm pretty good at it, but every once in a while I'll find somebody I can't get him over the hump, and West is really good at doing that.
and I really enjoy doing that. So when Mallory's teaching class, I get to do that the whole time.
Yeah.
And I have so much fun doing that.
You get to be a mentor and
Right.
not a
And then the
teacher.
other thing is because we both have our instructor certifications and our own LLC and all, all the background BS that you have to be able to do this. If for some reason one of us can't make a certain weekend, doesn't matter because the other one will be there. So we can still, from liability perspective and all that bullshit that we have to deal with, we can still put on the class.
So
It's not limited to just one.
Say if
person's
Mallory could make it Saturday and you could make it Sunday, could you still carry a class through?
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
So another thing that happens is usually when West has his classes, he has them on Friday and Saturday. Mm-hmm. Usually when Mallory has her classes, she has them on Saturday and Sunday. Now, the value of that is some people can't take Fridays off. Mm-hmm. They can't take the vacation day, so they can go Saturday and Sunday. Other people don't want to shoot on Sunday. They've got an option. They've got an option to shoot Friday, Saturday. So we kind of take care of both ends of that.
It's good. Now, do you give out a different hat pin at yours?
Yeah, I don't do the pins like Mallory does. I do patches.
You do the patches.
Yeah,
now, I got a patch from you.
Yep, and I'm just ordering some new patches that are a red version and a gold version for the time standards that you heard on the test. The 35 seconds is a general pass or graduate or whatever you want to call it. And then that 22 seconds was just a higher standard to me, right?
So so yours, how you've got, she's got the gold pin and the silver.
And the silver pin.
You're going to have a red.
I have that patch that I just kind of gave everybody for a while. That's going to be the 35-second one. Then the red patch will be 22 seconds. And then we're adding a third. I'm adding a third performance standard on my classes of 12 seconds. That most all of our instructors are already under 12 seconds for that test. But it puts just another goal to reach for those students who have beat the 22 seconds.
Yeah, see, I'm not under that 12. I think I'm
because
line.
To be honest, most people, I'll say anybody that has done a fair amount of training should easily be able to pass that test in 22 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It shouldn't be super difficult for somebody who has some experience handgunning and has taken
remember,
training.
mine was, I was like a 13.
Yeah, the last time you took it was like a 13.
That's a good time.
That's a quick time.
You're getting it done.
But I've had a substantial amount of training.
And it was obvious when I saw you shoot.
What's
You're
the
comfortable
test?
out there.
What's this test?
So
10 beer bottles or something? Or?
I can't remember if John
question.
said he stole it from Tom Givens, but Tom Givens and John Farnham both have an almost identical skills test. You could look this up on YouTube and find it. John Correa from Active Self Protection did a whole video on the Tom Givens test. And what it is, one of them will do 5 yards, the other one will do 7 yards, so it's right in there. But essentially you have...
Ours is 8. John Farnham's 8 yards.
8 yards. And you have to start in what we call an interview stance, which is one hand is out, keeping distance between you and whoever asshole is, right? And you have to be in motion, so you're walking laterally along the firing line. You're not front to back. You're walking around. You have to look behind you at least once during the drill. And then we have a shot timer that'll just keep track of how long it's been since a certain beep happens, and each shot happens after that. And we'll say, okay, once you start interview stance, you're moving, you can start when you hear the beep. We'll push the button, and then anywhere for between 1 and 4 seconds after that, it beeps and starts counting time. And your magazine in your fire, so you got one live round in the chamber.
You have to do a malfunctions drill during the test, which means you've had a misfire.
So that comes from a dummy round that we're going to put in your magazine at some point. So you got 5.
You don't know where it is.
You got 5 live rounds in your magazine plus a dummy.
And someone else loads it to wherever they want it. Just can't be first or last.
So you shoot until you hit that dummy round, then it's going to click. Nothing's going to happen.
Yep.
Call that the loudest sound in a gunfight.
Yep.
Right?
You got
to fix a malfunction.
You got to clear on the move, so you got to start moving while you're clearing. You got to shoot, slap rack,
Tap rack, yep.
reassess.
Come back up, keep shooting, and then here after a couple more rounds, you're going to be out of ammo.
The magazine
Slide's gonna lock back.
Yeah, you got to do a mag change under
While you're
move.
moving.
It's just like military. If you're not shooting, you're moving. And so then you got to do a magazine change. You got to move while you do it, reassess, fire 2 more, and then
we just
For a
look at the
total of 8
timer.
rounds.
Yep. And after your 8th shot, we look at the timer, and it says how many seconds it had been from the beep till your 8th shot broke, and that's your test time.
So what's difficult for new shooters that have only been there for 2 days is you're stacking on what do you say to the suspect? Are you moving? Are you clearing the malfunction properly? Are you reloading properly? Oh, and if you miss a round, it's a fail.
Yeah.
You have to hit the rectangle that we
Yeah, there's
create
not
for
a
you.
shot factor.
And you
or
got
anything like
to
that.
do all this shooting accurately. So basically, you're stacking all these things into one 35-second test. And it is really quite a challenge. Hardly anybody ever passes it their first try.
I think we've had 3 or 4 students pass it on their true very first attempt. Now, there's some people that come to a return class, and their first attempt on their second class, they might pass it or something. But I think we've only had 3 or 4
Really? That's
students pass it their very, very first
So I
attempt.
do want to say this about tests and drills. Okay, I heard an instructor once bad mouthing some Navy SEALs that came to his class because they ran them through the scramble, is what they call it. They had their own little test, and they all did poorly.
They forgot to talk to their suspect.
Well, I know. Yeah, exactly. They just threw a grenade, right? But
They backed up and called it.
but I will say this:
A10.
any organization that focuses on a test or a drill is going to get very good at it, and anybody that's new to that is
Yeah.
going to struggle with it. And I don't care what level of proficiency, which branch of service, which SWAT team or which special ops unit. If you're going into something cold, it's going to be a far greater challenge than if you've done it 15 times.
Well,
That's just the way it is.
if you guys threw this test at someone, say day one, first thing you do, you wouldn't have one pass.
No,
Guarantee it.
no way.
Now, I have a substantial amount of experience with firearms. And so, I walked in there pretty lucky, but I was impressed with the class. I think had one of the best full spectrum covers of knowledge that it needed. For me, the most important part was that tape loop.
Yeah.
I really like that. I like that it's simple. They broke it down so that if you can memorize 5 sentences, you can make it through that. Just repeat that tape loop. And I think that I even requested, can I get this laminated for a wallet size thing so I can, hang it on my mirror and have something to, have my afternoon prayer, but the shooting part was excellent. You guys pushed the shooting, you pushed the speed, you pushed the draw. It was very good. Then I went to your speed shooting course.
Yeah, at first we called it handgun speed and accuracy, but we adjusted that to concealed handgun efficiency. Is what we call it now.
And that was a really good course. I mean, both of them were excellent. Both of them.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I get to be a student in that class. I'm looking
Oh,
forward
you're
to it.
showing up as a student.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
And we're always taking other classes as students.
Well,
together,
yeah.
too. We go out to the farm out in Fairfield and take classes from the likes of Todd Nielsen and Matt Newbold. And we'll go up and train with Randy Watt. He runs One Warriors.
Dustin
Crew.
Henson
Yep.
with Combative Concepts.
I've had Dustin come out to Grantsville at least once, I think.
Oh,
once or twice.
he came out. I've been to 3 classes of his out at Grantsville. The first one was the carbine class where we
That's
froze
right.
our
I think I
butts
missed
off
one.
2 years ago, and then he did a handgun,
That's the one.
and that was really good. But then he also did a shotgun, tactical shotgun class, which was a kick in the pants.
It's a kick in the shoulder
I
for the
love
next
that.
3 days.
Yeah, I'll bet. Fun class.
Yeah, it's a we're so lucky here in northern Utah. We have so many really good trainers around here. Like from here in Tooele, within 2 hours, I can access of all the people that I've taken classes, probably 10 different really good instructors.
So, and there's a group that teaches up Spanish Fort Canyon, right there by the Thistle Turnoff, the sheriff's office range. There's an entire cadre of people that teach there, and we haven't even been to their classes.
I've
Might have
done
to do.
one class at that range only because my brother-in-law is an officer that has access to that range, and we did a class there once, but I don't know who that group is, though.
Well, can we go through the comments real
Yeah.
quick?
Sure.
We got Utah Patriots says, howdy guys. Love to have these gents come out and work with us. We could use some fine tuning for sure.
You don't have to try very hard to get me to come out and shoot. Just saying.
You got to throw out an address.
Might have to get my pelvis holster now. Nice.
Yeah, he's
I'm
talking
new to
about,
it, but I love it.
he says he open carries, might have to get a pelvis holster now. Yeah, that's a open carry does have its value and concealed carry has its value. And
Bingo.
depending on the situation, the value changes.
So if you're in a bank and you are open carrying and the robber comes in, who
dead.
do you think he's going to shoot first?
Yeah.
You know,
He might even
in my
shoot
opinion,
you before uniform security.
In my opinion, that's the value of concealed carry.
It
Well,
is.
in a perfect world, everybody open carries.
Oh,
I agree.
I'd love to live in that.
I agree.
In a perfect world, everyone open carries a nuclear device, and everybody says "sir" or "ma'am" at the end of every sentence. It'd be the national utterance. But
I feel like I'm in a Wired or movie here.
all right, Chelsea says, "What a coincidence that what Mallory just told me."
So Chelsea, it's my understanding that you might be joining us on the 11th and 12th.
She is. I just
Good.
got her registration
Yeah.
come through
Good, yeah, join
Good
there.
for you.
an
Chelsea,
hour or
it's-
two before we got here.
It's a great class. Go to it. And then, of course, we've got O'Malley May on there. She is my instructor of the first one. Is she going to be there as a?
She is, yeah.
She's gonna
She
get
wasn't going to until Chelsea registered. She made a 7. So I usually like to keep a 2 students per instructor ratio. And once we bumped over to 7, I was like, we could use that. So Mallory's just going to come.
Good.
She'll be
And
good.
if I can, I'll make it to that course as well.
One of my new deputies that's only worked with the sheriff's office for a short period of time, he's going to come as a student. I'm
Good.
looking forward to having him there. He's a good hand. He's a great guy.
I would say right now, I would dare say the sheriff should send everyone as one of his officers to that course.
It wouldn't. I'll tell you what. It'd up the proficiency level significantly.
Of their proficiency, it would get them outside, because law enforcement and military shooting, as we said, has a different tempo, different.
Law enforcement's kind of a contain and capture. Military is a locate and eliminate.
Well,
you
and
know.
not just that, but the range day.
We don't talk to our food.
Rather controlled. You know, it's rather controlled. They're like, all right, now squeeze the trigger a little bit. Okay, now shoot. And that's the whole,
Right.
you know, whereas this one, you're expected to be more of an adult. I was the range master at South area for a couple of years, and changing between the security qualification and then the SWAT team, you know, weekly verification or monthly, you know, the different breakdowns, or the sniper shot twice a week and had to qualify twice a week. It was totally different, and the tempo was different.
Sure.
So it made a difference. And this carries on more of the tempo that forces you to be the commander of your range day.
Yeah. We purposely try to raise the stress level as high as we can artificially get it at some point in the class, where we don't like just throw you right in the deep end and stress you out as much as we can. You know, we'll give you some fundamentals to build off of before we get then. But
It's
then,
an actual course. It's a school. It's not you're going to go out there, someone yell at you while you shoot. It's
right,
an actual
we'll
school
teach you how to
teaches
do it, and then to try to help it stick and make it as most realistic as we can in that situation. We'll try to raise the stress as much as we can. And that's part of the reason why we even do a skills test, is so that you can understand how you might perform when you're really stressed out. And I mean, as you'll remember, everybody does it one at a time. It's not 5 people doing a test run and then you all switch out. Like, one person does it and we film you. Everybody's watching you, you know, and you can't fail. You miss outside the box once, you fail. If you don't move, or if you keep your finger on the trigger,
If you have
something,
test
it's a fail.
anxiety, it's going to be worse for you.
Yeah.
Because there is some anxiety there. David Grossman, Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman, and Gavin DeBecker and John Farnham, they all tag team off of each other off the idea that stress inoculation training is critical. So that when you get in the real gunfight, your brain says, it's okay that I'm stressed. I've been stressed before with this gun in my hand.
It's another
It's
muscle
just
memory.
Boom. Yep. You just get it done.
It's a muscle memory beyond the
But it's
trigger
so much
wall,
fun.
beyond. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I hope that saying that we try to stress you out isn't going to turn away anybody from
No,
coming
it's
to this
it's a
class.
positive stress.
You know?
And this course, I would like to come to this course. I've got something that possibly might be coming up, but I'll know at the beginning of this upcoming week if I can come. And hopefully you still got room for me, but
We'll
I want
have
to do it in the cold,
Yeah.
because that's another stressor.
Yeah. Shooting with gloves is a new concept
Yep.
for a lot of people.
Shooting
you
with
know.
gloves, reloading
gas
with
mask.
gloves.
Oh, I've done it. Yeah, been there and done that.
Yeah, reloading with gloves, all of that.
We used to do our lab entries on the SWAT team where we'd have an SCBA and a tank on our back.
Ooh.
And yeah, you're doing this.
Yep.
That reminds me of something else that I want to point out to people considering firearms training or who do firearms training is the value of doing force-on-force training.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
That'll make you
that,
sweat.
You talk about adding stress to your training, having another human being with a gun. Now, we're not shooting actual bullets at each other when we do that. We do simunitions. But they
Simunitions are
still
the
hurt
top.
like hell.
Blanks.
You know?
Miles is the bottom, but simunitions is the top.
And Randy Watt up in Ogden teaches force-on-force classes a few times a year, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I had done defensive handgun training for years before I ever went to a force-on-force class. And I thought I had a pretty damn good idea what I was doing. Until somebody dressed up and had a gun on them and come around. We were the one specific drill that I remember well is I was pretending like I was at a gas pump at a gas station, filling up. And this guy comes up behind me and says, "I need your car." You know, I turn around, I'm like, "Oh, freak, he's already got the gun like at me. Like, now what?" I don't even know what to do. And what that did not go well. The first couple of runs through that drill, and had a lot of critiquing to
There's
do.
no better trainer for the value of moving your happy ass when you're not squeezing the trigger
Oh yeah.
than force on force.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
I got
simunition,
shot a lot and it hurt. But I
Simunitions-
shot the other guy a lot too, so I got that going.
simunitions still hurt.
You guys are making me feel bad. I shot a Logan PD guy in the neck with the AR simunition, and it opened him wide up.
It
To
will.
this day, I feel terrible about that.
Oh, it will.
I should have shot him somewhere else.
The best
just
part
be
about
nice.
simunitions are a soap round. They're a little
Yeah.
plastic, but it was the best idea ever because it was like a paintball, but some genius said, "Let's fill it with Tide," so it washes out, right? So, like literally, after a day on simunition range, you don't need to add Tide because it is red colored Tide.
Yeah.
It's red colored laundry
Yeah,
detergent.
you just throw it in the washer and
But it's a plastic cup that has like grooves in it, so when it hits it opens up, but it will earn you.
But another valuable thing from simunitions is just because you get hit, you can still fight, and
Yep.
it teaches you that if you get hit, to still fight.
Don't stop.
Don't stop fighting.
And you're using your weapon.
Even if you've been hit fatally, you can remain animated for 11, 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just kind of warped. If you're going to kill me, I'm taking 5 of you guys with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just the way,
Yep.
Got a lot of hit points.
Yep. All right, we got to cut you loose. We got January coming in, but guys, thanks a lot. Go to Defense Sense. It's defensesense.com, correct?
DefenseSenseUSA.com.
DefenseSenseUSA.com. Sign up for the course. Force him to get another instructor in there. That'd be great.
There you go.
Fill the class up. It's going to be a fun day. It's going to be cold. You're going to be in a jacket, maybe
We'll have some
dripping
hand
it
warmers
off.
for you.
We'll take
Have
enough
some hand
breaks to
warmers.
warm up. We'll
Yeah.
take enough breaks to warm up. Not a big deal.
But it is a highly valuable class. It's a 2-day class. You do a night shoot on the first day, which is, if you've never done a night shoot,
It's totally different.
it's
So valuable.
it's a beautiful thing.
One last thing. So most shootings do happen in low light conditions.
Yep.
And from a civilian defensive perspective, most happen in parking lots and driveways. Your driveway.
Yep.
And so that night shooting is invaluable.
It is. It is. But anyways, thanks for joining us. We'll be back on in, I don't know, probably 10 more minutes. But let's thank Wes and Fred for coming on here. And I want to make a shout out to Fred. It's rare that you will see a local law enforcement officer that's willing to get down in the mud and look like a fool with the civilians. And that impressed me to no end. Most of the time, and this isn't a knock against law enforcement, most of the time they won't take the chance of not looking totally awesome on a range, and you'll do that. And that impresses me. It shows me your depth of character.
It's the only way I can learn.
We're very grateful to have Fred.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we will be back on in a few.